Hello everyone, welcome to this video on the preliminary material for the 2026 paper. This is paper 2 and we're going to have a look at a lot of the critical analysis that we could be asked to do from this preliminary material. So I've got it in front of me. I'm just opening up our first page. There's quite a lot of terminology. It says the computer games market. It says report A presents data about PC and console games market. Report B presents data about cloud gaming and the mobile game market. And then we've got sort of the glossary. We've got lots of explanations of what things mean. Familiarize yourself with that before you get into the exam. Just it will save you the odd second, minute in the exam. Report A is all about revenue growth. So we've got lots of percentages in there, lots of bits of data. Make sure you read that. Understand what CAGR is. Compound annual growth rate. I think I wrote that down somewhere. Then we go to page 3. We've got a graph. We've got a little like a compound bar graph. We've got some more writing. That's about revenue sources, and at the bottom, got like a donut graph. I think this is actually a quite a good donut graph, but I'll give you my thoughts on how to improve it shortly. Report B, cloud gaming and mobile market. Again, both of these reports, they've got lots of words in them, and I think it might have been better if they were just reformatted, so having bullet points or having some more pictures, dual coding it, as some teachers might say. And then the last part is graph 3. I've got lots to do on that. So on the screen, we've got what I've sort of chopped up. I put it into AI. Of course I did. It's got AI to give me some predicted questions. I spoke to the AI about previous papers. Let's try to do it in that style. So let's have a look at the first one. Improvements to graph 1, PC and console revenue growth. So let me just get graph 1 out. Graph 1 is visually busy and contains several issues that AQA love to test. So the predicted question is, state 2 improvements that could be made to graph 1 to make the data easier to interpret. So, I just scrolled down. Pause the video, have a go if you want to. And then we'll go through it in a minute. Okay, so compound annual growth rates, what I've written down, that's for the CAGR. The model answers, so the graph mixes percentages, revenue values, and CAGR labels without clear separation. It is a bit busy. There's a lot of data there. They could perhaps show it in another graph. They've just tried to put too much data on there. It says the bar's not labelled with units, billions. Well, they are. So AI, I disagree with you there because it says BN at the end of the sort of $32.1 that's on there. The legend is unclear. The tick box symbols are not standard and could be replaced with coloured bars. Don't know where the tick boxes are either, to be honest. AI is having a shocker with this question. The time periods, 2016 to 2021, growth are uneven and not equally spaced on the axis, and that's a very valid point. So the growth between 2016 to 2021 represents 5 years, and then they have a look at the growth over 1 year, and then they have a look at the growth between 2024 and 2026. So that's uneven, and we're sort of comparing different year. What's the word? They're just uneven groups. So they should even them out, or maybe look at it annually, or maybe look at it every 2 years. But they're different. I forgot the word. Someone put in the comments the word that I actually mean. But yeah, so we should have even groups, even time frames. Okay, my bit as well. As a visual, it's tough to compare 2021 and 2023 forecast. Therefore, the grid lines would be great. So some of them are quite close together. So we should have some grid lines on there. Okay. Misleading features in graph 1. So the predicted question says, identify 2 ways in which graph 1 could be misleading. So pause the video, write down a few ideas, and then come back to me. Okay, so the model answers. It says the graph compares growth periods of different lengths. And actually, that's what I've said earlier. So that's really good that's come up there. And that makes the visual comparison unfair. I've popped on there scaling of the bars. So they need some scaling. The revenue values are extremely close, but the visual spacing may exaggerate the difference. That's between the 94.3 and the 94 billion. And that's right, they're probably not scaled properly. So we're seeing like a small bar. But if we were to multiply that small bar by, I'll say 11, is it going to be the same size as the bar on the left? I'm not too sure it will be. The use of percentages is unclear, and it's obvious. It's not obvious what these percentages refer to. And then for me, lastly, the colours for positive and negative growth are the same. So when they had some negative growth for 2022, 2023, I think I'd have preferred to have seen that in red. So doing the different colours for growth and then for regression, or the opposite growth, negative growth. Okay, question 3. Critique of graph 2, the revenue sources. So graph 2 shows PCs versus console revenue sources. We've got premium at 56, microtransactions at 30, subscriptions at 12, and downloads at 2. Does that add up to 100? I think it does. 86. No, 698. 100. Yes, it does. So just 2 improvements to graph 2 to make the comparison between PC and console revenues sources clearer. Okay, pause the video. Have a go. Okay, so model answers. I disagree with Copilot on this one. So it says the colors and patterns are identical for both charts. That's right. Making it hard to compare categories across PC and console. I disagree. It makes it a lot easier to compare them because you can compare the premium across because they've got the colors there that match. The microtransactions are the same. So totally disagree with Copilot there. Percentages are shown, but the total revenue for each platform is not, which does limit interpretation. And that's true. PC revenues could be in the billions, console revenues could be in the millions instead. So that isn't saying whether one's greater than the other, although it is designed, I suppose, to show that premium is, no matter what console you're on, premium is the most popular. So that could be the purpose of the graph. They just haven't made it clear. The charts are pie charts. I call them donut charts, and they're harder to compare than bar charts, maybe. But I disagree because they've put percentages on the diagram. And I've gone on to say that I think the diagrams make them really easy to compare. An increased accuracy would allow us to compare the subscriptions better. So both of them have 2%. And if it went to one decimal place for each percentage, then the subscriptions for both might have one of them at 2.4 and one of them at 2.6, just in case you had to say which one had a greater proportion of subscription. So we could have done that. And they've put unable to compare the two in terms of actual financial values, which I think is pretty true. Okay, question number 4. So, interpreting survey data, report B, turn my page. So, the predicted question is give one limitation of the survey data presented in report B. So, it says free to play games are preferred by 53%, premium 39%, subscription by 9%. So, write down a limitation of the survey data that is presented in report B. Pause the video and have a go. Okay, apologies if anyone's hearing a chainsawing in the background. A bit of craziness going on in the garden. So, model answers. Pay as you go was not included as an option. Right, so that's really important when we look at that survey data. And this is in the last paragraph of report B. Therefore, the question's biased. And people who did pay as you go might have had to have selected something else. Or is there an other there? I don't know. So I don't think that question's good enough if it's missing out one of the key categories. The sample size isn't given either, so technically they could have asked 100 people, which means that it's not reliable, or they could have asked 100,000 people, and then it's really reliable. So the more people you've asked, the more reliable your data is. Finally, the demographic of respondents is unknown. So if we pick people from a really affluent area, they might prefer the more expensive options because they're able to afford it. If we were to pick people whose income isn't as great as others, then they might not go for higher paid games. They might go for for free to play games. So the demographics can have some sort of bias, and you need to have a representative sample for any survey that you do. All right, question 5, critiquing forecast data. So forecasted growth rates from 2023 to 2026 are significantly lower. Predicted question says, explain one reason why forecast data may be less reliable than historical. So pause that video and have a go. Okay, model answers. So forecasts rely on assumptions that may not hold true. So the market may be stable for a long period of time. Consumers may behave in the same way. Something may cause a change in the behavior, and it might be unexpected events. So economic changes and new technology could change a trend, such as, I suppose, if we had better technology for PCs, if PCs were more able to have massive battery life and you could connect to Wi-Fi from really far away and they were super quick, people might use PCs because they could be out and about like a laptop. Um, Consoles might become supercharged and really like more powerful. You never know. So that's where technology could change. COVID, of course, happened. That changed a lot of people's playing habits. I think a lot of people, more people played online, more people play multiplayer games, Call of Duty, for example. So, these sorts of unexpected events can change things. Question 6, identifying bias in report A. So I'm going to get back to report A. It says, give one example of potential bias in report A. So read through that and see if there's anything you think could lead to bias. Pause the video and have a little go. Okay, I think this question's unlikely to come up. I'm not sure there's that much bias. I think the AI is probably reaching, but it is a large language model, so it knows language better than I do. So the report emphasizes console growth. So most of the growth will come from console market, which may reflect the publisher's interest. The report uses positive language, so rapidly and expanding, which may influence interpretation to make the reader think, oh, wow, that's really good. Oh, that's going really quickly. So that's another thing that could be taken into account for the bias. Right, last question, question 7, critiquing graph 3. I've got quite a bit for this one. They're going to have to ask a question on this. This is the worst graph out of the 3. So, graph 3 shows growth for cloud, physical, and download games. State 2 improvements that could be made to graph 3. Pause the video, have a go. Okay. Model answers, right? I don't like this. It says uses the key usage symbols that are unclear and not intuitive. No, I think the key's fine. It tells us exactly which one's which. Physically sold games and downloaded games, maybe have to squint at so that you can tell which one's which, but I think you're fine with it. It says the y-axis is labelled revenue growth percentage, but no scale values are shown on the axis itself. I think what it means to say is put some grid lines in, and I've put that as my third line down there, so grid lines would just help to see it moving around. The lines overlap without clear separation. No, they don't. They don't overlap at all. So you're chatting rubbish again, AI. For me, oh, sorry about the yawn. Busy day. I've got 4 bits really. It makes the data look like revenue's declining. Revenue isn't declining. Revenue is growing, but growing at a slower rate. And then for the downloaded games, it has a negative revenue, so it has that negative trend, but it looks like it's going to project to start breaking even. Now, what this graph doesn't do is it doesn't tell you any totals again. It's just about the percentage revenue growth. So do bear that in mind. The one that has the biggest turnover might still be downloaded games. Downloaded games might outsell cloud gaming, but because cloud gaming is highest on the graph, it makes it look like that's the forerunner. That's the best one. Also, because it's revenue growth, cloud gaming could have gone from £1 to £1.60, going up 60%. Woohoo! As turnover. So we don't know the scale of the growth that's going in as well. Lines are going through the values on the axes, and that's where downloaded games are. I think that's untidy. So they could move that 2024 lower or above the axes, just get it out of the way because it's in the way of that graph. So if we wanted to do some predictions, we'd find that quite hard. And then finally, for me, not clear whether they're talking about 2027 for that final data point. So they do go up in twos. I accept that. But for that last year, I'd have liked to have seen them put 2027 for their forecast. Okay, that's the video. That's us having a look at that paper 2. Paper 2 only applies to the first couple questions. The preliminary material does, sorry. And that's because it's the start of paper 2A, 2B, 2C. So it's normally the first 2. Sometimes it's the first 3. This won't relate to the rest of it. So it won't relate to the activity networks or the graphing work or the normal distribution. It won't relate to any of that. It will only relate to the first couple questions. So hopefully you've had a good read through. If you're still struggling with it, don't